We're on many different networks. God bless you, everybody. Happy Sunday to you on this Sunday, September 24th. Second day of fall, I believe. I believe so. Second day of fall. God bless you all. Happy Sunday to you all. It's another blessed opportunity to be with you in Morality Moves. I come the fourth. I don't know why I keep doing that. The fourth Sunday of the month from 3 to 4. Happy to be here, and I'm delighted to be here one more day. Before I introduce Miss Thayer, who's with me today, I'm so appreciative of that, those who've seen her before. I just want to acknowledge the sad death of my brother-in-law, Aldo Valera. He was Aldo Valera, and I know my husband's listening, and this is a very sad day for us. He died early this morning at Boston Medical, and I know how hard it is in life when today I'm just having to take a knee because the wind was knocked out of me. Trying to really making sure I wasn't crying too much on the broadcast today, but life can be hard sometimes. But we know a God who's greater than our pain, and we can lean on him, and which we're doing today. But Aldo Valera, my husband, wanted us to know that he left a legacy of kindness. Always kind, always gracious. And I think that's something that I'm going to take up in honor of him. He fought the good fight at Boston Medical this morning. His heart gave out, his lung gave out, and it was just sudden. He was married to my sister-in-law for almost 30 years, right by his side, and I can't only imagine. But I thank God and for his strength, and we pray for his strength, for his wife's strength and my husband's strength too, because that was his brother-in-law for almost 30 years. I can't imagine. So I just wanted to say that. But I am here today, Morality Moves. I am still here. I had a choice whether or not I was coming or not. I had to come. I had to come. Had this planned, but life gets in the way. But as you go in life, it's okay to take a knee. God knows when the wind's gonna be knocked out of you. But I cry and I walk, and I cry and I come, and I cry and I believe. And saints, and at the end of the day, like I said, I always say we know our beginning, we don't know our end. But what are you doing with the dash? And my way of coming with Morality Move is doing something with the dash. Is moving towards morality, because none of us know when we're gonna go. The Bible says that tomorrow is not promised. Today is a day. If you hear the Lord's voice, hearken therein. As I transition, so I just wanted to say that I had to say that. So if my heart's a little bit heavier, that's the reason why. Or if my eyes a little red, that's the reason why as well. But I just want to transition and get to the Lord's business. And the Lord's business is righteousness, is doing what's right. It's what God calls right, not what the world calls right, but it's doing what God calls right. And I want to thank Miss Thayer, who's here today. I know she doesn't like when I call her Miss Thayer, but how can you not? She was a school teacher. And
not anymore.
Not anymore. You'll always be a school teacher, Miss Thayer.
I'm retired.
Retired. Always a school teacher. And she was so gracious. To those who remember when she came last time, it was about a month ago, Miss Thayer?
It was last May. It was Pentecost Sunday.
Oh,
actually.
My goodness. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
It was a good bit ago.
Okay, but yeah didn't seem so long. Yep. So the school systems have started again. So I wanted Ms. Thayer to come in to talk about what's been transpiring regarding the school systems and a new education framework that they want to implement in 2024. Who's that want? It is Department of Education, of elementary and secondary education. So I have Ms. Thayer come in. She's so gracious again to come and take of her time to educate us again about what's transpiring in the school system and what's going on. Just to set the tone, last week the Massachusetts Department of Education adopted a highly controversial health education standard. The Mass Department of Elementary or secondary education, currently known as DESE, voted unanimously to approve the radical comprehensive health and physical framework and education framework. And that's what Ms. Thayer is going to talk to us about. What is that? What is it that they unanimously approved of? And I don't know what, and according to Mass Family Institute, which is a Christian clearinghouse lobbying for Christian values, they said that DESE received over 5,500 public comments. Imagine, 5,500 public comments, which included almost 3,000 emails, and that the majority opposed of the frameworks. However, it was still passed. I was so flabbergasted to hear that the majority of them opposed it. However, it was still passed last week. So Ms. Thayer is going to come in and talk about, what the frameworks is. But before we get into that, Ms. Thayer, who are you again? I know you for several years. But who is Ms. Thayer and why are you in this fight?
Well, I'm a couple of things.
Okay.
Most of them uninteresting. Well, they're interesting to me. I want to offer you my condolences before I start also.
Oh, thank you so much, Ms. Thayer.
I had the privilege of teaching science in the Boston Public Schools for 34 years.
Wow.
I was 26 years at Jeremiah Burke.
Wow.
Hello to all my Burke friends out who may still be out there. And 8 years at Latin Academy.
Wow.
I taught biology and earth science, and the kids taught me everything I want to know.
Okay.
They taught me a few things I didn't
Right,
want to know
that's
too,
true.
but they taught me. I'm a firm believer in parents' rights, so I'd like to back up a little bit, first of all, and give parents who may be listening a snapshot of what's
Okay.
going on in Massachusetts. Most parents probably don't know this, but almost 90% of public schools in Massachusetts are teaching the kids as young as 14 about birth control and abortion in the classroom.
Wow. 90%?
Almost 87%
Wow.
to be exact. And
Okay.
that figure comes from the Center for Disease Control. I'm convinced, people can contradict me if they want, but I'm convinced that most parents do not know this. If your child is in a health class, this is basically where it's being taught. Under Massachusetts law, parents are supposed to be notified when these topics are going to be discussed. Parents have the right to examine curriculum.
Oh, wow.
Parents have the right to withhold their child from this instruction.
Okay.
All they have to do is write a letter to the principal,
Okay.
and with no stigma on the child. Right? They give the child, an alternative curriculum.
Okay.
So that's parents' rights. The unfortunate part of what I just told parents about their rights is that if the schools don't comply, there's no hard penalty. So it's kind of a paper law, but it does exist.
Okay.
Even worse, all right, almost 60% of middle school kids, now middle school is as young as 11, are
That's
also being taught about abortion and birth control.
Wow. As young as 11.
As young as 11. They're barely starting puberty, most of them.
Oh, that's true.
You know, and they're introducing that topic. Now, most of this has come about because of the old frameworks, the old health curriculum frameworks.
And what are the frameworks, Ms. Thayer?
Well, the frameworks for health right now are the recommendations of the state.
Okay.
They basically outline what the state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, thinks the kid should know.
So it's not mandatory. It sounds like a recommendation.
It's a recommendation right now, but I could inform parents and listeners that there are some bills up on Beacon Hill now, Senate Bill 268, that is trying to make the frameworks mandatory.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
So
about
we
that.
need
Okay.
it's a bill that people need to watch. Again, kids as young as 11 are being taught about birth control.
As young as 11. Okay.
Younger elementary school kids are introduced to the topic of homosexuality, and it's also mentioned again or taught again at the high school level. So that's the old frameworks. Interestingly enough, we live in an age of ultrasound.
Right.
if a woman is pregnant, she can actually see a beautiful image of her baby on
Right.
ultrasound.
Right.
There is no fetal development in the frameworks.
None at all?
They don't have to show kids an ultrasound and the beauty of new life. And that's a little bit suspicious to me. Why is that not being taught?
That's a great question.
You know,
That's
why
a
is
great
that
question.
not being taught?
Right.
It's not in the old frameworks, ultrasound, it's not in the new frameworks.
That's true.
You know, either one. The new frameworks, they're not an improvement.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's
Let
probably
me
an
give you
understatement.
some information,
That's
you know, on the new frameworks. The old frameworks mentioned nothing about gender identity.
Oh, the old one? Okay.
The old
Okay.
frameworks did not.
Yep.
In the new frameworks, there are at least 18 items, standards, to be taught on gender identity. Now, if people aren't familiar with that term, gender identity is you are what you feel.
Okay.
You are what you feel you are.
Okay.
If you're a girl and you think you're a boy, if you're a boy, you think you're a girl, that's gender identity.
Right.
There are 18
18.
new standards dealing with gender identity. And I can't help but feel that this is perhaps laying the groundwork for kids who want to, quote unquote, transition to a different gender.
Okay.
You know, it's it's one of the most substantial changes that I noticed in the frameworks.
Miss Thayer, if you can just kind of highlight what you just said, because you kind of just put like a huge you just that was just a huge statement you just said right now.
Well-
First, gender identity.
Gender identity. I have a copy of the
Yep.
the new framework.
And I remember when people are thinking, and again, when we think of gender identity, and I just want to stop a little bit because I think how that's the new overarching difference in the frameworks. One of the things,
it's
right?
It's one major one,
One
yes.
major one. And I remember when they were talking about the bathroom bill years back, and a man or a woman can go in, it's in gender identity how they feel. So when we're talking about gender identity, it has nothing to do with physically changing your anatomy yet, or it's really how you feel. If you feel you're a girl today, then you act like a girl. Feel like you're a boy, yeah, then you act like a boy, or go into the boys' bathroom and you can change it. It's interchangeable. So it's fluid as well. So when we're talking about gender identity, we're talking about you putting on what you feel. And again, as Christians here, I want to be very sensitive because I know people are really struggling with this, and that's where the cross is. The cross in Christ. And Christ can help you with your confusion. But God calls a boy and a girl a girl. So this is where I'm standing with that. And I know you are, Miss Thayer, too. That's where we're coming from. However, in this new frameworks, it's giving license to a... Now I was telling you last night, Miss Thayer, telling you yesterday, I teach job development. I teach resume writing. I teach finding that job. There's so many standards of excellence how to find a job and all the standards required. And I'm not expecting a young child to understand how to apply for a full-time job or those skill sets to drive or a pilot or becoming all those things. Or however, we're putting in the hands of little children the biggest decision of their life. If you're going to go against nature, become a boy or girl. When you think about that, a child can't even drive, can't even go to the military, can't drink, but yet you were going one of the biggest decisions of your life to the hands of a little children, whether or not you're going to be a boy or girl, based on how you feel. And studies have shown that after they become teenagers, they want to change. But yet they don't talk about that. So I just wanted to digress.
Well, I'm glad you used the word confusion. When I
Yes.
talk about these issues, I'm always trying to balance two things.
Yeah.
One is a conviction about the truth.
Right.
The other is compassion,
Right.
you know, for people who are struggling
That's so
with
true.
different issues
That's true.
in their
Mhm.
life.
Yep.
And I'm glad you used the word confusion
Right.
because there was a time when this condition was called gender dysphoria.
That's true.
And
That's true.
actually, kids who are left alone with this confusion outgrow it.
Wow.
The vast majority between 85 and 95%.
That's the research, right?
That's the research.
What they're not saying, and that they're changing your biology and all of this based on a child's.
Right.
And yet those have been talking against it. Those who have been detransitioners saying, why did you allow this when I was a child? Even
Yes.
on Capitol Hill. Yep, I've seen that.
Exactly.
But yet you don't see that in the media.
Well, let me just go back to the
Yeah.
frameworks again for a
sorry.
minute, because that's one of the biggest changes. But there are other problems that I think parents should be aware of,
Okay.
because this is the new guiding document for all health, sexuality
Within the state.
within the state. But just to read 3 or 4 of
Oh, yes,
the
please.
standards,
Yep.
because there's a lot in the standards that are problematic. But I'm looking at grades pre-K to 2nd grade. So we're talking about toddlers
Oh my goodness.
to age 7.
Excuse me? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So that's the range. Okay.
Yeah.
So under the category of healthy relationships, now I want you to picture a little kiddo who's
Yeah.
4 years old,
Yeah, 4.
5 years old,
Yeah.
maybe in kindergarten.
Don't know their colors, their ABCs, don't know.
You took the words right out of my
Sorry,
mouth. They're
Miss
supposed to be focusing on how do you get from 1 to 10
Yes.
and so forth, okay?
Right.
But this is the standard.
Right.
Discuss gender role stereotypes
What?
and their potential impact on people of all genders.
What? Sorry. Oh my goodness. Okay.
I have that in print.
Say that one more time, Miss Thayer.
I can give you the document
Yeah.
afterwards and save you from jotting down notes here. But discuss gender role stereotypes and their potential impacts on people of all genders.
And this is toddlers in 1st grade?
This is
This high school
pre-K
students.
to grade 2.
This is not even high school students.
It's not even high school. You know, I mean,
What?
the absurdity.
The absurd.
You know, the interesting thing about these frameworks, I read the whole document, and it was put together by a group of people called stakeholders. These are people who have a vested interest in what kids learn.
Right.
Do you know that the majority of them were not? It wasn't coming from clergy, so religion was discriminated against in putting this together in
Wow.
a sort of way. And there wasn't a multitude of parents. As you pointed out, at least 50% or more of the public did not want this
Did not
document.
want this document.
So that parents were not considered stakeholders, so to speak. Let me read you another one, because this is from grade 3 to grade 5. Now, these are kids who are 8, 9, and 10 years old.
Yep.
They're not quite puberty. A few
No.
of them might be, but
Yeah.
not quite. Okay, let me
No.
just read it to you, and then we'll talk about it for a minute.
Okay.
It says, describe the differences between assigned sex at birth
Oh my.
and gender identity, and explain how one's outward appearance and behavior does not define one's gender identity. Now, it's going to take a while to kind of tease that apart, but I want to take a phrase out of that.
Okay.
Assigned sex at birth.
Okay.
What does that mean? Now, I'm going to approach this 2 ways.
Okay. Please
Okay.
do. Please do.
First of all, from the point of view of faith.
Yep.
If you read the book of Genesis, it says, God created man, meaning people, humankind. God created man in his image.
Right.
Male and female,
That's right.
he created them.
That's right.
That's the hand of God.
Yep.
Now, the other thing is science. I'm a science teacher.
Yes, you are. Yep.
I taught biology, I taught earth science. Just from the natural point of view, at fertilization, at conception, when a new life begins,
Yeah.
you get 2 X chromosomes and you are assigned female sex. You get an X and a Y chromosome with the DNA in
Right.
it. You are male. Nature assigns sex at fertilization in utero.
Wow. Right away. Yep.
So, I mean, this
Yep.
is ridiculous. The doctor doesn't deliver the baby and says, okay, you're female.
Oh, right.
No, that's what that means.
Oh my goodness gracious.
You know,
Right.
that's what that means. And I'm sorry,
Wow.
either faith or science tells us otherwise. What assigns sex is God, for us who believe,
Right.
and nature, for those who simply study science.
Okay.
You know, your biological sex is determined at conception with a micro, very small minority of people who have chromosome problems. But
Miss Thayer, and
this is for 8 and 9-year-old kids.
8 or 9 years old.
10
kids.
maybe.
Oh my goodness gracious. 8 or 9 years old. Okay.
So that's that one, And I'm still looking at 8, 9, 10-year-old kids. This is another standard.
But Miss Thayer,
Yes.
before I forget, just quickly, because you're highlighting the whole arching debate is saying who's the one who's assigning sex at birth? Is it going to be God, or is it going to be man? Is it going to be how you feel?
But
And yet you're giving that. We're teaching that in the hands. We're already saying that to children, that this is what we're deciding.
The one who assigns sex is nature or nature's God.
Or nature's God.
And
Right,
it's
right.
not
That's the
assigned at
argument.
birth.
No,
It's assigned in utero or when conception takes place.
exactly.
So-
But right,
We're not telling kids the truth.
I agree.
We're not telling kids the truth.
I agree. And it's flabbergasting that it's to children, and it's not even. First of all, it wasn't even talked about with the parents. This is what we're going to discuss, but this is what we're going to teach our children.
Right.
Right. In addition to ABCs and trying to pass the MCATs, makes no sense.
Never mind that since the pandemic, the kids have
Right.
been losing
Yes, they have
ground academically.
Right, exactly.
I mean, kids at this age should be focusing on studies, focusing on sports, how to get along with each other in the classroom. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah, you're right.
That's it.
You're right.
This is still grades 8, 9, and 10.
Oh my goodness gracious!
All right.
Right.
I won't do. I won't do all the problematic ones, but I'll just
Okay,
give you a
please
feeling
do.
for some of.
Yeah, please do.
All right. This is still grades 8, 9, and 10. Explain the relationship between sexual intercourse and human reproduction.
What? 8, 9,
8,
and 10.
9, and 10-year-old kids.
Explain. Are you serious?
And the range of ways that pregnancy occurs, whatever that means,
Whatever that means.
is anybody's guess.
And how explicit is that going to be? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
It drives me crazy that they would do these, do these kinds of. I mean, these
8, 9,
kids
and
are
10.
barely. They're not even. Some of them haven't even entered puberty yet.
It's so
and
true.
you're introducing
Yeah, that's
rated X material.
You're absolutely right.
to these kids.
To young kids.
Let me just do one or
Okay.
two more because
Yep. No, feel free.
this is a little bit older. This is 11, 12, and 13-year-old kids.
Okay.
Okay, this is grades 6, 7, and 8. Analyze ways to prevent pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections, including methods that can be taken before becoming sexually active. That is, communicating with a partner, HPV vaccine, and contraception. I think last time we did this talk, we talked about the notion of birth control for kids. I started teaching in the Boston Public Schools in 1970-71, which is when they began giving these devices to kids. And I was naive enough to think at that time that it would do some good. But because I worked with school kids,
Right.
every problem that this was supposed to solve skyrocketed.
Wow. Wow.
STDs, well, they
Oh,
call
my
them
goodness.
STIs
Oh,
now.
yeah. Yeah,
STDs went
yeah.
up.
Right.
Teenage sexual activity went up.
That's a good point.
Pregnancies, teen pregnancies went
Yeah.
up. When abortion became legal, abortions went up. Do you know
Right.
the only thing that went down?
What's
Only
that?
one thing went down.
What went down?
Marriage.
Marriage. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Marriage.
Wow.
Contraception for
Wow.
kids is permission to experiment,
That's true. That's so true.
and it's pressure to give in.
That's a
After
good
all,
point.
nothing's going to happen, quote unquote.
Right.
So, it's almost like they're telling the kids that being sexually active is an expectation. It's going to happen.
That's true. That's true.
And it puts more pressure. It puts more pressure on the kids. These kids should be worrying about academics. They should be
Right.
worrying about, their family, ultimately getting a
Right.
job, going to
Right.
college.
Financial literacy. Right.
It's just amazing. I think there's one more. A lot of this is code language, too. You have to understand,
Right.
I've been watching this sort of thing for a long time. And I'm still talking about 11, 12, and 13-year-old kids, right? They're right on the threshold of,
So 11, 12, and 13.
this is middle school.
This is like college material, to be honest with you. It's not even high school. It's more like
I
college
never heard
material.
about protection till I was in college. I'm
That's
a very
so-
old lady.
I hear you.
know, but these are very adult things.
That's the
Very
word.
adult
That's
things.
the word. Extremely adult.
Okay. Access credible sources of information about human sexual and reproductive health, including pregnancy and pregnancy options.
And how old again, Miss Thayer, are these?
This is 11, 12, and
Oh,
13. This is middle school.
Oh my goodness.
Now, I'm going to
Analyze-
ask you to answer the question.
Yeah.
What are pregnancy options?
Goodness.
I can tell you what they are.
Probably. Well, abortion's one of them, right?
Abortion,
Abortion,
parenting, and adoption. Now, I want to ask the parents out there, if your child should become pregnant,
Right.
is it really the school that you want discussing these matters with your child?
You imagine?
I mean, these are things for parents, and parents especially for the faith community, within
Right.
the context of the church.
Right,
If
that's
parents
true.
need help,
Right.
it should be coming, through the churches.
Right.
So, I
Right.
mean, that phrase, pregnancy options,
Right.
appears in a couple of different places, which
Right.
I'll talk about in a minute.
Right.
But these are right out of the new revised frameworks. There's just two other general things, because in high school, it's a continuation.
And we're talking about 11, 12, 13 that don't even analyze the next what they're going to wear.
They should
Or
be
what they're
worrying
gonna
about the
eat.
soccer team and
right. And we're talking about pregnancy options to children.
to children.
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about even adults, right? And even adults. And I digress a little bit, but Miss Thayer, I was one of those adults when I said I'm not having sex outside of marriage. I worked in large buildings, and it was like something you did. I said no. I'm gonna wait until I get married, and the word that kept me is no. 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 No is a full sentence. And the thing is that I'm going to destroy a little baby inside because of choice. Now, there's a few percentage that it's because of rape or because of the child. My sister had a preemie. She fought for that baby, and he's doing well today, thank God. And they said to abort that baby. And Seth is 5 years old today. So, because we trust in a greater God. But the thing is that it's again the culture of death, the culture of my choice. And I'm a woman, and I made that choice. And few people were like, no, I'm just going to get mine and do mine. And then it's almost like, it's just a mistake I got to fix down the road. A baby's never a mistake that you fix down the road. And I was one of those women say, no, I'm going to honor my body, honor the Lord, and wait until marriage, because that's what God designed it for, and not get all willy-nilly out there. That's a choice I made to 18 up until, and I am in my 50s. And I waited until marriage. Now, I am an anomaly,
In this culture.
in this
yes.
culture. They're
Yes.
thinking, like, well, no, that's why I stayed before people. I said, no. I said, because what a baby is a baby. We have more respect for a bald eagle, little puppies, little kittens than we do a little baby inside the womb. But it's not, and we have to take care of the mothers who are confused and not beat them up, because they're just verbally, just not physically beat them up, but verbally talk against them because they're going through a lot of stress. But it's not true. I'm so against abortion. It's very minuscule, those that are really for the life of the mother. They don't talk about that. The majority, if you look, it's for convenience or lifestyle. It's not the right time.
Yeah. Even women
So I'm against that.
who go through that procedure
Yeah.
for sexual assault
they're
reasons,
scarred.
most of them go on to regret it. As soon as I can
Yeah.
give you data on that as
Okay.
well.
Yep.
Most of them go on to regret it.
Yeah.
They act out of panic
That's true.
and trauma.
Yeah.
But once they are relieved as much as they can be of
Yeah.
the trauma, the fact women are designed to nurture.
Oh yeah.
That's built into us.
Oh, we're built into that.
what-
Our whole body.
And women who betray that, that nurturing. The other thing is biblically,
Yes.
I mean, you can look at Scripture. Truly, this is Psalm 139. Truly,
yeah.
you have formed my inmost being. You
Yeah.
knit me in my
My
mother's
mother's
womb.
womb.
I give you thanks that I am fearfully
And
wonderfully made. I'm awesome. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Fearfully, wonderfully
and
made.
wonderfully made.
Yeah. You know, as a teacher, though, I have to say something else.
Yes.
None of this is age appropriate.
None of it. None of it. I don't even understand most of those questions you asked me. I have to repeat it again. And I'm like, when you think about the absurdity to children, when we think about that, most adults couldn't get most of this. We'd fail the test. We would really fail it. Yes, we would.
Well, I'll do a little science here. The last part of a child's brain to develop
Yep.
is the prefrontal cortex.
Correct.
That's the part of the brain that plans in advance,
Right.
makes moral judgments,
Oh my goodness.
and makes decisions. Do you know when that part of the brain is, for the most part, completely developed?
When is that, Miss Thayer?
When you're in your early 20s.
Men and female, early
And
20s.
The
Oh, my
frameworks
goodness.
are loaded with kids age 8, 9, 10, 11,
Right.
12, 13, doing advanced planning and decision making. This is, forget the content, this
Yeah.
is educationally unsound.
All right.
There's an old joke about Mark Twain. Mark Twain said that when he was 17, he couldn't believe how ignorant his father was. But when Mark Twain turned 21, his father had matured. You know, it's like it wasn't the father who matured, it was Mark Twain. But, you know, just strictly from a teacher's point of view, you're asking kids to do advanced thinking. Never mind content,
That's
just to
true.
do reasoning when the wiring isn't in place yet.
Miss Thayer, if we could just highlight what you just said, I think that when young people call that a mic drop. Because, like a mic drop,
okay,
you just
sure.
drop the mic and you get off the stage.
Yeah.
Because you're saying, but you're like, all this adult content, children can't even rationalize or reason until a certain age. That's why the courts are trying to appeal these convictions on teenagers.
Right.
For the same reason,
Yeah.
the reason behind that, because they were minors and their brain doesn't form until a certain age, so you shouldn't be charging them as an adult on adult crimes. Yet this is mismatched.
This is why I think it's important to give kids clear moral standards.
I agree.
You have to do the advanced reasoning, in a sense, for them. You
I
can
agree.
show them reasons why, but you have to set the norm.
I agree.
The norm for behavior. Look at how much we talk to kids about don't drink and drive.
Yes.
And
Yep.
when they're out with their peers,
Yep.
reason goes out the window
I
and
agree.
acceptance by their peers takes over.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a whole different dynamic, and it's not until people generally are well into their, you know, early to mid-20s that they begin to really actively behave according to reason.
But Miss Thayer, if God has given us, the Bible says, as when I was a child, I thought as a child, but when I grew up, I put away childish things. And the Lord also give us time. We have a baby, we have seasons. You're growing, and when you grow with understanding. However, we are saying as adults, we're saying to adults in this topic, we're saying, okay, you little children, this is adult content and you need to eat it and be satisfied, and this is what is best for you. The absurdity of that.
We're expecting children to be like adults so we adults can still behave like children.
Oh, wow.
It's
Yeah,
backwards.
wow, wow.
It's
That's
all,
a T-shirt, Miss Thayer.
It's all backwards. Want to touch on
Yeah.
two last things. I
Feel
don't know how
free,
we're
yep.
doing time-wise.
You're doing okay.
And that's school-based health centers.
Yes, please. Yep.
School-based health centers, apparently they couldn't get the kids to go to clinics for all the birth control and devices, so they have to put the clinics in the school.
Okay.
School-based health centers, they do a lot of other things, like if a kiddo sprains their ankle in gym, they get sick to their stomach. I
Okay.
mean, there are those kinds of things.
Right.
But if I can just find, according to the quality standards, if a school system sets up a school-based health center, they can also do pregnancy testing, and here's that phrase again, pregnancy options counseling. Now,
Okay.
if I'm a parent and I'm working, it's a nice convenience to have a clinic in the school, But I wonder how many parents who sign up for this know that these school-based health centers can do pregnancy testing, and if the test comes up positive, the school-based health center is going to be the first to counsel the kid.
What does that mean, Miss Thayer? The first, what does that entail?
In other words, the school-based health center can substitute for the parent's role. They don't have to tell the parents. I wonder how many parents have signed up for these school-based health centers. You have to sign a consent form. I still have one from the Jeremiah Burke High School going back to the 90s. It's in my miles and miles of files in my attic of stuff that I've accumulated. But in other words, the school is substituting for the parent's role.
Ms. Thayer, that is such strong statement. So you're telling me if I send little Sally to school, and little Sally gets pregnant, then the nurse or whoever that doesn't know nothing about me, nothing about my child, is going to make a life-changing decision, assert my role. I'm not going to be notified, and they can do next steps with my daughter? Is that essentially what you're saying?
Well, the phrase here, pregnancy options counseling.
Okay.
So remember we talked about pregnancy options: parenting, adoption, and abortion.
Oh my goodness, those are the three.
Those
Okay.
would be the three. Those would be the three options. Where did the school get the authority to do this?
So
But it's all legal.
what?
It is all.
Oh,
it's
you've
all
got
legal.
to be kidding.
And just for the
What?
folks who may be listening who have kids in the Boston Public Schools, let me just. Boston Latin Academy, one of the schools where I taught, Brighton High, Burke High, Madison Park, Boston Community Leadership, Tech Boston, and Charlestown High have school-based health centers.
What?
And I'm sure that most parents, when they sign for this, they're thinking it's a great convenience if their kiddo gets sick in school, but they don't know that this is a possibility. In the school year 21-22, there were over 4,500 visits to school-based health centers for reproductive health services.
What? Oh my goodness. You're
Now,
doing that
some
in
of the
quotes.
visits might
Yep,
be
doing that in
repeat
quotes.
visits, but 4,500.
For reproductive, only for
That's
reproductive.
code language,
Right.
reproductive health
That's
services.
so true.
What?
What?
Amazing.
Okay.
I want to,
Oh my goodness.
in the faith tradition where I
Yeah.
am, I speak to kids about marriage.
Yes, you do.
And I talk to them. I also speak to them pro-life, and I show them what an unborn baby is like.
Wow.
But when I talk to them about the gift of their sexuality, first of all, it's something sacred.
It is.
It's a gift from God. Their
It's true.
sexuality is a gift from God.
That's true.
It is designed
Right.
to promote, to generate life.
That's true.
It is about intimate love. God says it is not good that the man is alone.
Right. That's
Do you ever
true.
think about Adam? When God creates Adam, Adam is in paradise. He's got the whole planet to
What a
himself.
good point, Miss Thayer.
Mountains and rivers and
Oh,
lakes
yeah.
and streams. And you
Beautiful.
know something? Adam isn't happy.
Wow.
God says it isn't good that the man is alone. I will make a suitable partner for him.
Wow.
So it's God's answer to Adam's loneliness.
That's a good point.
So it's intimate love, and the gift of the self is a commitment between the man and the woman. Do you ever think about marriage? I'm sure you have. I'm not married, but I think about marriage vows anyway, right? Do you ever think about this? For better or worse,
Yep. Richer
for
or
richer
poor.
or poorer,
Yep.
in sickness and in health.
Yes.
And basically, what the man and the woman are saying to each other, I'm going to love you the way God loves. Because God loves us for better or worse.
That's true.
He loves us whether we're rich or poor.
Yep.
He loves us whether we're sick or healthy. There is something sacred about what should be going on between a man and a woman. And we're not teaching this to our kids, and we're letting all that's necessary for evil to triumph is
Yep.
for enough good people
To
to do nothing.
Yep. Yep.
In the faith tradition that I'm in, I try to go out and
Yes, you did.
talk to kids
Yep.
about the importance of marriage, but we've lost that as the standard. We're all human.
Right.
People make mistakes.
That's so true. Yep. Yep.
Pressures,
Yeah.
But part of learning about sex is learning about self-control.
And you know, Miss Thayer, as you talk, I just think of why I'm doing this broadcast is kind of in response to what you're saying, that we've lost the standard. And I always say morality moves. I said, whose morality? It's God's morality. And the thing is that this world, the Bible's, Martin Luther King said that the church should be the headlight, not the tail light, even in the times of the 60s. And the quote you just said, when bad things happen, when good people do nothing, was a quote, I think, of a journalist during the civil rights time. Or something similar,
It's
right?
been around for a while.
Been around for a while.
Yeah.
But all I like to say is that there's still a standard. And even if you mess up, you know, God's grace, He's right there to help you. But what's the standard? And quite frankly, what we're allowing is no standard and saying that's a standard. That's absurdity. No standard is not a standard. However, when people stand, everybody wants to dress in white and get married. Right? But yet you don't want to, till death do you part. No, until you make me mad, then we're going to part. You know, get mad. There's no, the sacredness. Even in terms of, I don't know, what's that bonding chemical or agent when a man and a woman get together. It's something God.
The oxytocin.
Yes.
Yeah.
See how God designs us even for bonding.
It's God's wisdom.
It's God's wisdom. It's not the hook. But we're living in a hookup culture. Hookup culture are people like, you know, just getting by or no commitments. But God's ways is still standard, and He says that narrow is the way to life or to what's right. If you take a test, I mean, I used to be a recruiter. If you don't dress right, look at the standards. We have standards for everything else. Yet, however, with God's ways or moral ways, we want to be all willy-nilly. However, if you want to get that job, you got to dress the part. You better look, you better have your resume together. You should have all these standards in the world's ways. However, for what God's standards are, what He calls right and wrong, we just want to wing it and try to make it through. However, you're going to have the consequences of your actions. And we don't want the consequences. We just want excuses. We want to, you know, get our lifestyle on and don't make me be inconvenienced by my lifestyle. And that's where, as Christians, we come in respectfully say, that's why I have you on, Miss Thayer. Say, no, respectfully, this is wrong. This ain't the standard. We can't be giving little children this food stuff that even us adults don't be eating all the time. So thank you for coming in, because we still have to call right, and wrong. That's why I have you here today, and saying what we have here is not the right standard. So
No.
I know I digress, but I can't
No, that's
help it, Miss
okay.
Thayer.
You know, sometimes I want to go back to the idea of, you know, women who are sexually assaulted
Yeah, that's hard.
and become pregnant.
That's, yeah.
You know, I have to say this, and I
My
do
heart
believe
goes
it.
out to them. That is so hard.
God sometimes asks women to be heroes and protect even a new life that gets started that way.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if God asks a woman
Yeah.
to be heroic,
That's true.
He will give her what she needs.
But can I add? No, I don't know what the case was, but we know that Microsoft, who died in his 60s. I forgot who he. I forget his name. Who created Apple?
Oh, Steve Jobs.
He was an adoption baby.
Yes.
Do you know that? An
Yes.
adoption baby.
Yes.
People don't know that story.
Mm.
He was an adoption. Somebody adopted him. The mother decided not to abort him. Imagine Steve Jobs. Oh my goodness,
I know.
Steve Jobs. How many children we have aborted that could have been the answer? Go ahead, Miss Thayer.
Mother Teresa used to say, too, that when we were enduring the AIDS crisis,
Yeah.
we could very well have aborted whoever was destined to cure AIDS.
Wow.
You know, she used to say that,
Wow.
she used to say that. When I first started teaching, I had a mentor who said, the first 100 years, Linda, are going to be the hardest. Everybody gets challenged.
The first 100.
And the challenge is, do we hold fast to the love of God? That's
Wow,
the challenge.
That's so true.
That's the challenge.
That's so true, Miss Thayer.
You know, but I'm sorry that we have not put high standards in front of kids, and then
No,
we
we
wonder
haven't.
why the world is falling apart.
I agree.
You know?
I agree. If we look at TV, look at the music, it's all up in your face. Yet we are pushing perversion, pushing just filth. Yet we ask our children to be honest, clean, don't curse. I mean, I'm not surprised when children be cursing. You see the parents sometimes cursing, or you see the TV set. I'm like, what are you allowing your child to eat and grow up in? And quite frankly, Miss Thayer, that's why I'm here, Morality Moves, because my childhood wasn't perfect, but I didn't have all this filthiness 24/7. I didn't have all this type of filthiness, and the kids had to get wade through all that filthiness to make adult choices. And then it's not fair.
It's
just not fair.
During the pandemic, unfortunately, I was in the house by myself. I had time to watch a lot of television. Violent,
Yes.
vulgar,
Yes.
crude,
Yes.
and creepy.
Yes, that's so true. Nothing clean on right. That's
It's
a good
very
point.
rare to find something that's truly wholesome.
That's a good
You know,
point.
for people.
That's
And
a
we
good
wonder
point.
we wonder why the kids are doing this, that, and the other thing.
That's true.
And the schools are feeding into this nonsense instead of upholding a high standard,
Yes,
you know, for the kids.
that's true.
My heart is broken for the kids. And I want to say this to any of my former students who may have been at the Burke or Latin Academy. Twice a day I pray for all the students I've ever had.
Wow.
I loved them. I miss them.
Wow. That's
I miss
beautiful.
them.
That's beautiful.
You
Miss
know,
Thayer.
they taught me a lot. They
That's-
taught me a lot.
Oh,
You know,
that's-
and they deserve better than what they're getting.
Oh, that's beautiful,
know.
Miss Thayer. And just you saying that, being here, Miss Thayer, and just you're testifying of your experience of what you taught your kids, and you're saying, no, this is not what you teach your kids now. We've never taught that. That's not the standard. You know, and you fought for that standard. You fought for those kids to grow up. So I appreciate you and your heart, Miss Thayer. I'll tell you, I really appreciate it because you're just bearing witness to what's right.
Well, I'm thanking you for the opportunity
Always, Miss Thayer.
to do this today. You know,
Always. Oh, yeah.
I'd be home being a couch potato and cursing the Patriots. You know?
On the page, they're hanging in there, right?
I don't know what they're
hanging
doing
in
right
there.
now.
Hanging in there.
You know,
But Miss Thayer, you brought a lot of I'm always surprised by this content, and I read it and I know about it, but I'm always just as surprised. But I thank you for bringing that and telling people what is going on, and you break it down such a way that you make it very clear, because you're not going to get this, you're not going to get all of that, what's transpiring. You're just going to, the news just said Desi just passed this. The news very quickly.
the news coverage of this was abysmal.
Abysmal.
You know,
Abysmal, I must say. Yes.
you know, I was tempted to write a letter to the paper I generally read
Yep.
and ask them if they actually took the time to read the framework.
That's a good point.
You
That's
know,
a good point.
you know, where is the investigative reporting?
That's so good.
You know.
You're right. That's so true.
And it really bothers me that they really didn't ask parents, you know,
Or church.
or
Right.
church,
Right.
you know.
Right.
It's really sad. I think the schools have betrayed parents and they're betraying the kids. Not obviously, I'm a teacher and
Right.
I met a lot of wonderful
Right.
teachers.
Right.
But this so-called health curriculum, you know, the sexuality standards, it's such a departure from what the kids really need. I don't have the data with me, but especially girls, but a certain number of boys, if they become sexually involved and the relationship breaks up, they're prone to depression, and we have a
Yeah.
lot of
Oh, yeah, that's
we have a
true.
lot of childhood depression right now.
That's so true.
And I can't help but think that that's a good part of the reason we have it. And girls
Okay.
need to know that. Boys need to know that too.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's really sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad. It goes back to that old song, "Looking for love in all the wrong places."
Two different faces. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, Miss Thayer, first of all, thank you so much for just painting the painting of what's transpiring, very accurate. And I'm always hopeful because we're still here. And I always say, if you have the right to say, this is what, on one corner, if one person is shouting what their beliefs are, we can respectfully come into the marketplace. the public place and say, this is what our beliefs are. Because quite frankly, it's come to the point that it's the hearts and the minds of our children what's transpiring. Hearts and the minds of our children. And it's worth talking about. It's worth saying, okay, be aware of what parents need to do. Be clear, and push back, opt out of all those sex ed stuff, because we didn't go into much detail. But when you think about gender identity, you're saying to a child that you can change your identity. I mean, and then be one identity today and another identity tomorrow. And sometimes you don't even have to disclose to your parents that you're all these identities and all this confusion. How are you going to learn your ABCs through all of that stuff?
It's a departure from reality. This is probably a bad joke, but every morning I get up and I think I'm Tom Brady's wife. I don't know why people just don't accept the fact that because I think I'm Tom Brady's wife, I must be Tom Brady's wife.
That's so true. You're right. And we should call you.
This
yourself.
Gender identity,
So
these kids are confused.
It's
And
so
I have
true.
compassion for
Me too.
kids that are struggling with this. But you owe kids the truth.
It's true.
You owe kids the truth.
You owe kids the truth.
It's not an act of love
Right. Good
to
point.
accommodate a falsehood.
That's so true.
It really isn't.
God doesn't do that with us.
No.
He doesn't do that with us. He gently corrects us. And I think that the church, well, many times we're in the situation that the church, we had to become much more vocal in our opinions, respectfully, to be out there and say, this is the way, according to Christ, walk therein. And that's what we're doing today in terms of that. I would like to see a movement. I know that if we have done this in terms of capitalism, if I give my money and my dollars to a certain place, I'm expecting this in return. Martin Luther King did that with Operation Breadbasket. He said, okay, you want to you respect my money, but you don't respect the person. That's what he used to say. Say, okay, I'm not going to give my money over these places until you respect the person. However, we can easily do that in capitalism, exchange of services. I don't like this store, I won't go there, we comment. However, we are giving all of our children to the school system, right? And yet we need to say, okay, these are our standards. These are our choices. And quite frankly, we're not taught financial literacy. They're not taught financial literacy in the school system. That should be. Or a trade, a real strong trade to compete against China, India, and all the world powers, what's going on. But we're going to push sexuality, something that is I remember when I took sexuality's course when I'm 11 years old, I never forgot that. I'm like, I don't want to see all that. I remember in 5th grade. Why am I showing this? So those are the things that say imprint, but this is what we're pushing our children. So I would like to say we should have a movement to push out all sexuality stuff out of the school system and get back to the A, B's, and C's, because we're not competing. Our test scores are not as strong yet. This is what we are pushing on our children, confusion. So I would like to see a movement, a statewide movement.
Yeah.
And as we're wrapping up, Ms. Thayer, we have just a few more minutes. What is your last closing statements? Because I can rant on for years on this one.
I could too.
All right.
My Guinness Book of Records is 3.5 hours, but I won't go there. I guess, if you love your children, you will tell them the truth. As a teacher, do you know that public schools started in Massachusetts in the colonial days?
Wow.
And it was started because the early colonists wanted the public to be able to read so that they would have access to the Bible.
I know that. That's to the Bible.
We need to return to our roots.
That's true.
That God is the one who decided that we would be sexual beings.
That's true.
And the model for fulfillment is marriage.
That's true.
A commitment of love. And, even in nature, a bird will build a nest before they hatch the egg.
Wow.
It's like we have sort of signs of this all over the place.
That's so true.
Teach your children well that their sexuality is something sacred.
Right.
It's meant to
That's
give
true.
life to children.
Nicely
That's
said.
built in.
That's
It's
true.
It's about intimate love,
Yeah.
a godlike imitation of God's love between a man and a woman.
Right.
And it's a sign of commitment. There is nothing in the frameworks about commitment, marriage, sacrifice, all the things that make a relationship worthwhile. So my suggestion to parents is that within your faith community, this is your job to teach your kids, and at an age when you know they're ready.
Nicely said. Wow, nicely said, Miss
Yeah.
Thayer. That's another mic drop. When you know you're ready, because you know your child,
Right.
not certain systems in the school system.
Yeah.
So on that, Ms. Thayer, I so appreciate. I learn every time you come in. I barely. I kept stopping you because I can't believe it. But thank you so much, Ms. Thayer, for coming in. Thank you for your fight, all your seeds of promoting God's good works. I so appreciate.
God's in
that.
charge.
Yes.
It's a nice vineyard. I only work here.
Amen. Amen. On that note, thank you so much. This has been another broadcast of Morality Moves. God bless you all. We'll be here again. I'll be here again the fourth Sunday of the month from 3 to 4. And please get involved in your school system. Even if you don't have